Do you want to be better in business or life? Do you want to be able to execute and succeed? You must have a positive mindset. You must believe and stay focused. Do you know what it takes? It takes fuel. Welcome to Fuel Your Drive.
Welcome to Fuel Your Drive. I'm your host, Josh York. As you know, everything's about purpose. This podcast is to give listeners a behind-the-scenes insight to some of the most successful, effective practices of successful entrepreneurs. And today, guys, you need to get fired up. Today, we have a very special guest. We are bringing on the show Dan Fleyshman, my man. He's the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in history. Guys, you heard what I said? In history, at the age of 23, after selling $15 million of clothing in 6 department store chains and surpassing expectations with his $9 million licensing deal with Starter Apparel, he's launched then the Who's Your Daddy energy drink, getting into over 55,000 retail stores. Later went on to launch one of the top 5 Victory Poker app, which is huge. Along the way, he became an angel investor, now with over 32 companies. As a serial entrepreneur, Dan has had some successes, including launching a media site to garner over 300 million views in the first year, a hoverboard company to over 5 million in revenue in 4 months, and multiple subscription box companies over 48 million in combined sales. Currently, his social media agency, Elevator Studios, works with over 600 influencers and manages campaigns for a variety of large companies. And he's also author to a fantastic book, which I really am fired up to talk about, how to set up your business for under $1,000. Guys, let's drop a microphone and welcome my man, Dan, to Fuel Your Drive. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Love your energy.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, my friend. All right, well, Dan, listen, let's get rocking and rolling right now. The first thing I think we need to get right into, because, a lot of people don't get it, entrepreneurial-wise, people don't understand what it takes. Look, I started my business with practically nothing. But let's kind of first touch on your book, because I think there's really going to be some key nuggets there, how to set up your business for under $1,000.
Yeah, so it's very straightforward. It's very practical. There's a bunch of straightforward tips of like, okay, first, how do you have the idea? Then, how do you get your website? How do you get your corporation? How do you get your trademark? What platforms should you use? The reason I did the $1,000 number is because people have analysis paralysis. Like your uncle wants to start a fishing hook company for like 32 years, he just never starts it. But you and I, during the course of this podcast, we could come up with fishinglures.com, go find on Alibaba, go source them from China for a couple $100, order a couple 100 units, get our website up on Shopify or ClickFunnels for $0 to a couple $100, trademark the brand, submit the corporation on legal Zoom. We could do everything in the next hour. Does that make sense? So the whole point of the book is that you could just get started for such a small amount of money if you just want to do it now.
100%. The biggest challenge I find, and I'm sure you're going to obviously be 100% right there with me, is, look, I love Nike. My favorite book of all time is Shoe Dog, The Story of Nike. Just do it. Just do it. People make too many excuses. People don't know how to execute. Look, excuses don't equal execution. You have to provide execution. Now, I heard a lot of stories. I've done a lot of research on you. I'm extremely impressed with what you've done. So, I don't wear hats, but I'll tip my fake imaginary hat off to you. Congratulations on all your success. But Dan, I heard in the early days you turned down a deal from Nordstrom. You want to even get into that story? Because that story fired me the hell up.
So we were at the convention in Las Vegas called Magic, and our booth was like a rinky dink. We thought we were big time. We were like, we got 20 feet instead of 10 feet for our booth. And then when we get there, next to us is Polo with like a $2 million booth. The other side is FUBU with a $1 million booth. Puff Daddy's got his $1 million Sean John booth. So we were going big time with 20 feet. These guys have like 4,000 feet each. But we wanted to name a catchphrase that everybody enjoyed. Everybody liked the name Who's Your Daddy? Whether it was for sports or humor or sex, whatever they thought the name was for, they enjoyed it. So we wrote almost $1 million in orders in our first 2 days at our first convention, right? We have no idea how we're even going to make all this stuff because we're 18 years old. And Nordstrom's come up and says, look, we spent like an hour with them. We showed them, we told them how excited we were about all of our other orders. And they said, what if we gave you 5 times that to do an exclusive with us? We're like, no, because we know these guys are going to reorder. That doesn't make sense for us. They're like, okay, what if our opening order was 10 times that? And I was just like, wait a minute. Are you saying your opening order is going to be 10 times that? He said, hold on, let me check. So the two of them walk away. They make a call. They come back. They said, our opening order will be 10 times that. You do a 1-year exclusive with us with our options for extension. So I call my older brother, my partner calls his dad, and we're like, what do we do? These guys are offering us millions of dollars up front, and I'll store buy. We get our own store within a store. It sounds like this dream heart deal. We're 18 years old. And both my brother and his dad both said the same thing. If they're offering you that, that means everybody else is going to want you. Turn it down. Like, we're kids. Like, what do you mean turn down millions of dollars guaranteed? Said, you got to turn it down. Just do a normal order with them, and let's figure it out from there. So they still write us a 6-figure order. We still work with them for years. And the best thing I ever did was say no to them. It was crazy.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I think we need to touch on this right now because obviously you knew you were onto something, but that is such a hard, ability to lose your focus on because that's exciting, right? That's exciting. And look, I've turned down some crazy numbers. Like, honestly, between you and I hope my wife does not listen to this because she would kill me if I told her what I've turned down. But I know where I'm going. I believe, right? You believe, you achieve. Right. So everyone needs to really listen to what Dan's saying here because my man literally turned down millions and millions of dollars because you obviously believe. You're great. You called your brother. Great. You called your father. But that must have been just like, I'm sure you were thinking about that all night when you left, right?
Yeah, I still think about it.
I'm sure. But obviously it's turned out really well for you. So I'm very, very happy about that. Well, listen, so starting in the early days, you had this t-shirt company. Now you've kind of branched out. You took the company public. But that's crazy, at such a young age, like, again, like very, very successful. And I'm really telling you, I don't give out these compliments too often. I'm very impressed. So let's kind of circle back to that. Like, that's a real good title to hold, but why don't you touch on it a little bit to let people know, like, how you did that?
Sure. So essentially what happened was I wanted to launch an energy drink under the same brand name, under the same Who's Your Daddy name. But in order to do that, I would need, millions of dollars extra surplus capital to go build this thing out. So I saw a void in the market. There was 900 energy drinks on the market, but they all had that thick cough syrup taste to them. So I wanted to create a flavor that people could actually enjoy. So I found the chemist from Gatorade and hunted him down, met with this guy, and he ended up licensing this formula to us, which was a cranberry pineapple. And we won flavor of the year, back-to-back years. And he told us in the meeting, he said, if you sell $1 million, I will let you have the second flavor, which is green tea. Nobody had ever done a green tea energy drink. But in order to really do this, we needed millions of dollars to go for it, to go fight with Red Bull, Monster, Rockstar, etc. There's 900 drinks on the market. So we decided to go public. So in the next year and a half, it's like $2 million and almost 2 years of paperwork to go public. We finally go public April 2005 when I was 23 years old. And we raised $3.75 million in one day, actually in like 2 hours. And the rest was history. For the next couple of years, I just didn't sleep. I went and got us into 43 distributors, Budweiser, Coors, Miller, Pepsi. And those distributors, every time I go get a distributor, I'd stay in that city for 2 days and go meet with every retailer. 7-Eleven, Costco, Ralph's, Vons, Albertsons, etc. I would go meet with everybody. And 43 distributors and 55,000 retail stores in America, plus an additional 6,000 overseas and all the military bases.
Love it, man. Love it. Look, I always talk about being uncomfortable in order to get comfortable. Now, I'm sure that was very uncomfortable, Dan. All that traveling, all that grind. Look, I love that grind. I live for the grind, man, So honestly, I don't even know any other way. But what would you have to say to my thing about being uncomfortable to get comfortable? Because people like to say practice makes perfect. I like to say practice makes permanence. You got to perfect the craft, and do it over and over again. And also, business was very different back then. Look, I tell everyone, talking is free. If you can build relationships, you'll be very, very successful. The problem is people don't know how about doing that. But now with social media, it makes things so easy. Look, I just shot you a DM. You got back to me, and here we are today. But if not, I would have hunted you down. I would have got you either way. But talk about that a little bit, like being uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Yeah, so I don't think people realize, like, if you put in the work and you put out that framework out there and you go and hustle, like, you can set yourself up for life. Like, and the work part of it is the fun part of it. A lot of people are so scared of it and they hold back, they're hesitant. If you make work fun, meaning like each day you have goals for yourself. So let's say it doesn't sound fun to go work in a call center, right? It doesn't sound fun to go do door-to-door sales. I would make those things fun. I would make those things have goals for myself, and then I would buy stuff or invest in stuff based on those sales or based on those numbers, so that when I was in there, it was like a game. Like, oh, if I close 6 deals a day, I'm going to go invest in this and buy a property. I'm going to go do this trip, or I'm going to go do this thing, or buy this car, or buy this thing, right? And it wasn't about the material object. It was making the actual work process fun. When I was going door to door, I was like, look, if I go see at least 20 accounts a day, I'm going to close 4 of them, right? If I close 4 accounts a day, that's over 100 accounts a month. That's 1,200 accounts in a year. I'm going to make $1 or $2 million a year just by going to visiting 20 accounts a day in a local strip mall. Like, if you just break it down and make it fun, like, this is what happens if I do the game right and you keep leveling up in the game, it changes your whole outlook on work.
100%, 100%. But I'll tell you what, the problem people have, look, I'm not making this about me, but look, I get up at the crack of dawn every day, 3:45, like clockwork. And people always say to me, man, you're so motivated. No, it's called discipline. So how are you able to put these things in place without discipline, right? You know, tell the people about the days you had that weren't so great, because people probably look at you now and look at that finished product, which I honestly just see you as just getting started. But people don't understand that journey. How hard was that for you?
Yeah, that's not cookies and cream the whole time. Like, there's crazy stuff that happens along the way. You get a order from Costco for $2 million. It sounds great. Then you got to go find $1 million to make that stuff. And by the way, they're not going to pay you until 30 days after you deliver to them. That's 3 months from now. For the next 4 or 5 months, you're floating the million. Oh, by the way, if you sell well, which we were doing really well, they're going to reorder before they paid you for the first one. So now all of a sudden you got to float another $1 million, and then they do an all-store buy and expend to $5 million. This is a real story. And they expend to $5 million for an all-store buy. Now you got to come up with $1 million plus $1 million plus $2.5 million. How? They haven't paid you for the first one, right? So you have to be so passionate. You have to be so willing to work. Like, the motivation part and like you getting up at 3:45 in the morning, that's because you have a goal of building this huge franchise and having that big exit and having that thing to be able to help the world, right? I'm motivated by, I want to invest into a bunch of companies, into a bunch of startups, and do my charity and help the homeless. Like, I want to do those things. So you couldn't give me $1 billion to go sit on the beach the rest of my life. I physically couldn't do it. I have to work every day. I have to be in it because that's what's fun to me. I literally, physically, emotionally, and mentally enjoy working. Now, that's not for everybody. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm saying if you have the mindset of what you want your goals to be, you can't sit and watch Netflix all day and play Fortnite. You just can't.
Yep.
People won't. It's frustrating because we have so much access to so many things now that it's so easy for time to go by. Do you notice, like, a few weeks ago it felt like January, now we're in May? Like, time is going by so fast now because we have our phones in our hand for 8 hours a day, and when it's not in our hand, we're watching TV or dealing with people or in meetings or on phone calls. So time goes by way faster than it was back in my day. Like, when I was starting my company, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have social media. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, man. I didn't have it when I had a web. I always tell people my website looked like a little boy put it together. And, you know, I was doing millions and millions of dollars at the age of 26. And I was just connecting with people. I was just connecting. It's about connecting the dots. It's about figuring out. I always say you got to be able to be an actor and be a successful entrepreneur, but you have to be able to adapt to different people. And when you have the ability to adapt, that's how you move the needle. And that's very important. But listen, you touched on some great things, Dan. You know, talk a little bit about that pain. Was that one of the most painful stories? Like, how'd you pull that off? Did you have the funds? Did you not have the funds?
The most painful story was for online poker. There was a situation April 15th, 2011 called Black Friday, where 3 of my competitors all got shut down instantly. And the FBI, everybody got involved and shut down all their bank accounts and seized billions of dollars from my competitors. By default, I became the #1 poker site in the world in seconds. Not because I was supposed to be at that time. We had the 3rd largest brand and one of the top 10 sites traffic-wise. But my competitors all just got shut down overnight. And so the market changed. Basically, online poker in the US was gone. And so I had to make a huge decision. Like, do I want to default be the biggest site in the world and then have the scrutiny of what happened to them? Instead, I flipped the script and said, you know what? I'm going to close down the company, pay back tens of thousands of people over the next few days, and I'm going to show the world what a good poker site operator is supposed to be like. And I went and showed all the financials, all the accounting, that every single player got paid back, because my competitors, they couldn't pay anybody back. They weren't going to pay anybody back. And they still haven't paid a lot of people back years later. So that was the toughest day ever, because I didn't close down due to my own fault. I closed down due to my competitors being bad people and going to jail. And so that was a huge decision, because I was an 8-figure company that I just closed and paid everybody back and shut the doors down. And never once do I regret that moment. That moment actually set me up for the rest of my life, because now, the last 7 years, I can go into any poker room, any casino in the world, and people are high-fiving me and hugging me because I was the good guy in the space. Right after it happened, I did 83 news interviews showing bank accounts, financials, all the transfers and payments, just so people could see, look, go to the site, you can see every single person in the world got paid back. And what happened was I ended up getting hired by 4 land-based casinos to consult for them. And Morgan Stanley brought me in for a year and paid me way too much money, which helped me financially get back on my feet because I just lost tens of millions of dollars overnight. So I never, ever regret the hardest business moment in my life. I'll never regret.
Wow, that's some story, Dan. Wow. Well, listen, kudos for you for being a good guy. People say good guys finish last. That's not true. Good guys finish first. You just got to believe that, right? Got to believe that in your mind.
They always finish.
100%. Always finish. So talk to me a little bit. Look, I really love the way you make decisions. Why don't you tell people like a little bit, some of these listeners, how do you make decisions? Because your decisions obviously are spot on. I know how I make them, but I want to hear how you make them.
So I'm not scared to make decisions. And that's the problem for most people. Have you ever been around your friends and like, hey, where should we go eat? And then 5 grown adults can't choose where to go eat or what movie to go see or what to do. I instantly say where to go every single time. I'm not scared to make a decision because I'm also not scared to be wrong. And I'm not scared to make a choice. I know that because I make hundreds of decisions per day, I'm going to be wrong sometimes. And I'm okay with it. Like, people are so nervous and so scared of what people think about them, about their mistakes, about their failures. I'm on a podcast with you talking about my biggest failure in my life. I don't mind. I'll talk about it again. Like, if I'm on stage speaking in front of 1,000 people and a bird flies by on the floor, I'll clean the poop up in front of everybody. I don't care. I have no emotion to them because they're not going to be at my funeral. I have no emotions to the people on social media or the people at events. They're not going to be at my funeral. They're not going to be by my hospital bed when all this is over. So for me to care what they think about me in that moment about cleaning up poop or talking about a business failure, I'll make decisions all day long. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But at least I took the decision and did it immediately so I can move on to the next decisions.
Spot on. Spot on. Spot on. Give him a round of applause. Spot on. Listen, you're not always right. I'm not always right. I make mistakes. I always like to say a loss is a lesson. If you do it the second time around, that's the decision that you chose. Shame on you. You got to learn from your mistakes. But, I also talk about, like I touched on earlier, that uncomfortable to be comfortable. Who cares? Who cares what people think? I tell look, whether I'm mentoring someone, whether I'm doing a keynote, I always talk about if you want to have true success in building relationships, get a 16-foot ladder, go into a busy area, whether it's a supermarket, a big mall, stand on top, be careful, I don't want you falling, and just literally start singing Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You as loud as you can, because that's really uncomfortable, right? But if you can do that and you can actually make that happen, you just move the needle. You would just move the needle to get a little bit more comfortable, and don't be afraid to lose. Just go after it and do it and learn from your mistakes, which is spot on, spot on. So, look, I know you do a lot of great things with the homeless, and I really commend that. I have a lot of things as far as charity-wise that I like to give back to. But what really motivates you besides that? Like, what's really driving you every day? Are there people that back in the day that said, oh, Dan was this or Dan was that, or he couldn't do it? Or is it just, your passion just for entrepreneurship? Like, what really, really drives you?
My passion for entrepreneurs, the reason I work so hard, the charity part's going to be part of me forever. And I don't raise money from the crowd. Like, I put up all the money myself, and if people want to donate, they can. So for me, the charity is something that I'm extremely passionate about, but that's not why I work so hard. I work so hard. I truly believe the only way to fix our economy is through small business entrepreneurs. And so when I throw elevator nights, for example, I've thrown that 32 times for free. There's no ticket sales, there's no sponsors, and there's no sales on stage. I'm spending $300,000, $400,000 a year to put on free events for people because I want these entrepreneurs to go out and do stuff. I want entrepreneurs to get funded by my investor friends. I want people to take actions because every time a small business gets funded, they're going to hire 4 to 10 people. That starts to add up real quick when you start to get tens of thousands of people out there doing stuff. You know what I mean? So the reason I invest in so many companies is those 32 companies I've invested in have created thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions in revenue, and that just does stuff. The butterfly effect happens. I wanted to, at some point, I've invested in hundreds of companies with hundreds of thousands of employees that create billions of dollars. And I know if I do that, those people, the butterfly effect they're going to become millionaires, that they go invest in stuff and they go put money into the economy and they go do real estate and they go hire people. I want to be the trickle down effect for the economy because I believe that it's very, very fixable. And by doing that, everybody levels up. Does that make sense? If everybody's making more money, people start to bring each other up. The homeless rate goes away. Real estate starts to get fixed. Our cities get fixed. I just think the butterfly effect happens by just creating more action.
I like that. I like that a lot. Great. Really, really great. We'll touch a little bit about these events you throw.
Yeah, so I do 4 charity events a year, and I throw elevator nights 4 times a year, and sometimes this year we did it 8 times. There's 300 to 1,000 people, and they're like a Shark Tank style. And basically it's 12 companies pitch for 5 minutes each, and then I have a room full of investors. Separately, the different version of elevator nights is we'll do it based on a category. We've done it for fitness, we've done it for cannabis, cryptocurrency, where we'll throw these events that have same thing, 300 to 1,000 people, and I'll bring on 3 panels of speakers and then a couple of keynotes, but those events are free as well. So it's really just my way to give people access to a lot of the speakers that are, high-level speakers. And it's also my way for everybody to network with each other in real life, because we all talk to each other on social media, but I want people to look each other in the eye and shake some hands.
I love that. Well, listen, I'm always open to giving back. You ever need me, I'll speak for free. You let me know, my man. So listen, obviously we talked about your mistakes and, success is great. It's great to be financially, have that financial freedom and all that. But in your honest opinion, what do you really think, like what defines success? Like what would you say defines success for you or for business or for just anything else from your perspective?
I mean, it's a bit cliche, but the word freedom is what I combine success with. And it's freedom for all aspects of your life. Freedom is I can wake up and not work today, or I can do everything and work nonstop and I'm still okay. And I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to answer to the freedom to just be able to do stuff to me is a success. Like if I want to go travel the world, if I want to go save the world, if I want to go help the homeless, I have the freedom to make choices every single day. And I think when you hit a point, whether it's financially or emotionally or mentally, you can create your own success. You can make 50 grand a year and be way richer than me, if that makes sense. You could make 50 grand a year, but you have 2 kids, your house is paid off, you don't have crazy debt. You wake up in the morning and you're debt free and you've got your 2 kids and your wife or your husband, and you have those things, you could be way wealthier than me because your happiness level could be much higher. For me, the success is I wake up and I do what I want to help a lot of people. And now it's trying to get levels of success where I can help way more people and help, does that make sense? Like the freedom aspect is the key word of success to me.
I couldn't agree with you more. Spot on. So listen, I took some notes on a couple of things that I want to kind of circle back with. So look, I believe everything's mindset. I do a lot of crazy things. I am very crazy, obviously in a good way. But, I always like to push myself to limits that other people would never, ever push. And I usually do that throughout my workouts just to get my mind right. But during those really, really tough times, what were you telling yourself or thinking? Because obviously, look, you made it out. I always say this too shall pass. That's something that I do. And I do this exercise in my mind that makes me get through things. But what do you do when you do deal with those challenging times? Because a lot of people have issues with this because fear is the roadblock.
So the main line that I say about that is don't sit on the floor and cry about it. What I mean by that is April 15th, Black Friday, when everything shut down, I could have sat in Florida and cried about it and people would have understood, like, hey, he just lost an 8-figure company, his whole brand, his identity, he just lost everything, essentially, right? And instead, my mindset is get busier. If I just start outworking it, outperforming it to move on to the next thing and showing, look, these are all the things that happened. This is what I'm going to do. I went and did 83 interviews. I'm using that example because it shows at my darkest business moments, I actually got way busier. And I never had time to sit on the floor and cry about the fact that I just lost an 8-figure company because I was doing all these interviews, meeting with all these people, calling everybody, paying everybody back, starting getting consulting gigs. Like everything started happening. And all of a sudden, 2 months had gone by and it just didn't feel as bad, right? Like I was so entrenched in outworking it, outperforming it to go on to the next thing and start becoming an angel investor and consulting and doing all this stuff that the mindset for me was, if I don't sit and reflect on what's past, I can't change that. What my competitors did, them getting shut down, me crying changes 0. Same thing with when I closed the company. Me crying changes 0. Anything reflection on the past literally changes nothing. So the mindset for me is when things happen that are tragic in the business space, I just try to outperform it. It's like the same thing you hear people say, just keep your mind busy. I do that at scale.
I love it. Everyone needs to literally stop, rewind, and just keep playing what he just said because it's so true. People hear me refer to my 5-minute rule. 5 minutes, cry, do whatever you want. After those 5 minutes, move on. Nothing's going to change. No one else cares about what's going on. You're the only one that controls your destiny. Get after it. Great, great stuff. Great stuff, Dan. You're getting me so amped up. I was about to take my screen and smash it to get me fired up. I love that. So listen, Dan, real quick, before we're coming to the end of this, 2 more questions for you. Talk to me a little bit about your free time. Like, what are your hobbies? What do you love to do? Like, what occupies your time when you have some time to do something?
Yeah, so my wife is one, obviously. Number 2, I like throwing mini events, like mini meetups and dinners with business people. So it keeps me active with friends because it's hard to see everybody. I try to put people together and have these little mastermind dinners or couples dinners. Like I try to do different types of like 12-person size dinners. Anything more than that becomes, you can't talk.
Yep.
So I throw a lot of live events. We throw pop-up events. Like that stuff keeps me busy. And then my main hobby is poker. So I play a lot of the poker games whenever I can. It's just a long game, so it's harder nowadays. But I try to play that certain nights of the week or certain, and then my charity. Those are my real hobbies. But my wife being number 1.
That's great. That's great. Well, listen, family, wife, all important stuff. So that's very, very awesome. And then again, you ever want these mini dinners, I'm in, man. You count me in. I'm all in. I'm all about learning. I love connecting. I love networking. I love moving that needle. But last question, I always throw people off with this. I just had Billy Jean on recently, and he's like, wow, man, I do a lot of interviews. I never heard this question before. If you were conducting this interview, what question would you ask?
Oh, that's good. I like that. I would ask, what is your number 1 business regret? What is your number 1 personal regret? And if you had a time machine, would you actually go change them? Or are you happy with what happened?
Oh, I love that. So why don't you answer that question? I love that.
So my number 1 business regret is that I didn't do real estate early. I had somebody give me this advice. He had owned over 70 properties and like hundreds and hundreds of buildings with like 70. Anyways. And he said, look, at your age, this was, I was like 20. He's like, if you buy one condo, very cheap one, $100,000, buy a condo. And after each year, you only put 20% down, put 20 grand in. And after a year, refinance it and take 20 grand out. And as you rent them out, at only $1,000 a month, you might only make $100, $200 a month, but it's okay. The next year you take 20 grand out and now you go buy 2. Those are appreciating. Don't sell them. Just buy another one. All of a sudden, after 5 or 10 years, you'll have 20 or 30 of these places that you charge around $1,000 a month. He said, but when you get old like me and you're 60 years old, you'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these places and all of them will be paid off and you'll be able to keep expanding your empire, but you'll keep getting $1,000 a month and a very low risk because they're all very cheap. But your $100,000 ones earlier will probably be worth $400,000 or $500,000 later. That simple thing boggles my mind that I didn't do it because like plenty of times I could have done it, right? Now, do I regret it? No. And here's why. Every time I think that I regret it, I realize that because of how entrepreneurial I am, I would have taken out all the money or sold all the properties along the way for some of my business ventures, whether it's energy drinks or poker sites, whatever businesses, hoverboards, anything. I know that I would have went all in on something along the way and I would have sold everything anyways. So because it's not for me, I'm okay with what I did. I still preach it to other people because I don't think people should do what I've done in my life. People should not have gone, I shouldn't have gone as all in as I did, but I did it for a purpose because I'm not scared to go broke and I'm not scared to, I wasn't risking other people's money. Does that make sense? So I didn't care. I was going for it.
Yep.
But I don't recommend that to people. So I do wish somebody would go out there and teach this simple principle of buying really cheap real estate and every year or two buying one more. On the personal side, I've always wished I would have had a child earlier, but I don't regret it because I wasn't with the person that I should have had a child with. So as I get older, I'm like, dang, I wanted to have a kid earlier. I wish I had a kid in my 20s. Like I've always wanted to have that. But at the same time, I wouldn't take a time travel machine and go back and change something. So I think those are my only 2 business regret and personal regret. But I sleep at night okay that it was the right decision for me in my lifestyle.
Fantastic. Dan, you're a good dude, man. I really enjoyed having you on here. You definitely have provided a lot of value. So guys, make sure you check Dan out. Dan, where can people find you?
So all my social media is the same. It's all at Dan Fleyshman. And that's also a business tip. Like all your social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn should all be the same screen name, same bio picture, and same bio so that you don't know where people are going to find you. You want to keep it very, very similar.
Love it, man. You give a lot of good tips. A lot of people can learn from Dan. Very motivating session here. Again, obviously, guys, continue to fuel your drive. I am your host, Josh York. Until next time, let's get out there and get after it. See you guys.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast, Fuel Your Drive. Please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. I'd really appreciate it. And also, make sure you follow Gym Guys on Instagram. And of course, myself, Josh York GG. We're going to change the world. And we want to help you along the journey.